Here we are ready to start the third course. The third course on our schedule is the World GreenMech Challenge. Some of you may know what this is or have participated in it before. Others will be new to this. If you're new, don't worry, we'll go from the beginning. And we'll be doing little experiments along the way. This way you'll get to experience WGM as it is, practical and fun. This competition was inspired by the comics drawn by Rube Goldberg. These crazy machines. The aim is to use simple machines and mechanisms to create a series of devices that are connected. It's fair to say that the devices do many useful things that are, in the end, useless. The objective is not to see how efficient the result is, but to see how many principles can be used in the process. So, let's have a quick look at some pictures, which may explain things more clearly. Teacher Slav, can you see this picture? It has 4 sections, A, B, C, and D. What do you think A means here?
He picks up a spoon.
And then?
In B, he pulls a rope.
And what does the rope pull?
It looks like a big spoon.
We threw up the cookies and threw it to the bird. What does the bird do?
Probably eat the cookie, which spins the compass.
So there's a small mechanism here. The compass is a small lever. Then it went to F. What did it do? I feel that something probably fell into the bucket.
It poured water into the small bucket, which added weight to the bucket, which would you pull a rocket-type object at the back.
This is an old-fashioned flip-top lighter that would ignite when the lid was open. Here, there was a simple fixed pulley. Pull from here to open, then let the rocket take off. After ignition, there's a hook underneath. It looks like a sickle that would cut this rope. What happens next? In the end, the napkin shakes and wipes the person's mouth. Right? So the purpose of the device is to wipe your mouth automatically after eating something. But if you think about it, in real life, would anyone wear something like this on their head?
No, of course not.
But the idea is funny because it is impractical, yet it encourages people to think about the process. This is similar to WGM. We want to encourage process planning to develop children's thinking. We hope that WGM can produce thinkers that are able to benefit society with their ideas from an educational perspective. One key purpose of the WGM competition is to develop physical building skills. Over time, children will also develop problem-solving skills. Looking again at Rube Goldberg's pictures, we can see the creativity. GreenMech is similar in that way, it's highly creative. WGM began in 2005, but has undergone much improvement and development in that time. In 2006, new events and challenges were still being integrated. But now, after so many years, wow! It's been 16 years. Yes, WGM has quite a history. Anyway, in addition to connecting different devices, there are different types of events to participate in. For example, in 2015, we added the first R4M contest. R4M is very similar to what we're doing yesterday, where we program a robotic ball. R4M is really focused on brain programming into the contest. In about 2017 or 2018, GreenMech Jr. was added, so now there are already 4 types of contests. The World GreenMech contest now has something for everyone to experience. In the World GreenMech competition, the main aim is to give children the opportunity to enjoy the challenge of innovation. That's why each year, we provide different questions to stimulate the thinking process. This means that when children are making their devices, they can reflect on their own local cultural elements and experiences and bring those into the design process. We sincerely hope that this creativity can make its way into the children's lives. This event also helps school clubs In communities, they have something to work towards together. Growing, learning together, and practicing is a very important part of the experience. There are many fun parts that give children a lot to think about. But as with any contest, there are also primary objectives. For example, there are 6 specific abilities that we want to develop, and 3 major missions. The missions are technology, green energy, and innovation. We hope that the children can absorb their new knowledge through using the technology. Children will start to understand the necessary scientific principles that are often seen in the world around them and can be used in their lives. What about green energy? We encourage children to think about energy sources and environmental protection. So, for that reason, we want all materials in a competition to be the building blocks, and they can be used and reused many times. The last part is innovation. Every year, when we walk around the competition venue, all the projects are different. We hope that every children can develop their creative potential through interaction and observation. With respect to the 6 abilities we want to develop that children can take away, these are basic physics concepts, mechanical operation principles, system thinking, problem-solving skills, creative thinking, and creativity. These are the key abilities I hope the children can develop. So, in this activity, we aim to develop and use the 3 core concepts and 6 abilities. Part of WGM is also learning to make the best use of limited resources and use everything to its fullest potential, and also to reuse whatever we can. So in this way, we're following the 3 R's. We do this in all the activities and when using the building blocks. How many events make up the World GreenMech contest? 4. Let's have a look at some details of these events. First, there's GreenMech itself. GreenMech participants are usually elementary, junior high, or high school students. In terms of age, that's from about 7 to 18 years old. For our 4M, the age range is the same, from elementary to high school. These 2 contests needs a lot of teamwork, and teams can be either 3 or 4 people. What about GreenMech Junior? This contest was added a bit later, and it's aimed at younger children, or those that are new to building block challenges. They will usually start with more basic concepts, and the goals of the contest are a bit easier. There's another part to GreenMech Junior, which is very simple building blocks ideas, but also incorporates Sammy Sandwich, the programmable robot, and they have to write code. It's like a simplified version of R4M. It helps children get into the fun of competition first and requires fewer people in the team. There only need to be 1 to 2 people per team, so it's easy to join this event with just 1 teammate or partner. Now, before going further, we need to look again at the classification and arrangement of parts, because in WGM, in addition to the previous 5 categories, some other parts may be required. You can see here that its component classification is in 6 parts. The first is structural, frames and rods. The structure is mainly made of frames and rods. We've looked at these before, and they all belong to a larger group we can call structural. They can make the whole structure better. What about connectors? These are the pegs we saw before. These pegs can connect different parts together, and we have transmission parts like axles, gears, and wheels. We use these to make anything that has to transmit power or motion. With the category of transmission, components we know have frames, rods, axles, gears, and pegs. You can see these on the left-hand side of the slide. In other words, our basic parts are all here. Now let's look at the power components. These include motors, wires, and green energy sources, such as fan blades or water. The power components can improve our designs and can be used in the contest to make the models move. The final decorative part are self-made and are there to make your work more aesthetic. After talking about these things, we include by talking about a very important theme in WGM, the mind map. Here's the theme mind map. What is the relationship between WGM and this theme mind map? The biggest impact is that this is the narrative that drives the design, and we need it because otherwise the design has no purpose. People need to understand what the need for the device is. Like the comic we saw earlier, where the person was eating. What did he do after dinner?
Wipe his mouth.
So we look at things that are related to the process, and when we find them, We use them to extend and develop the contest theme and drive inspiration. So the theme here is, in the example, the man was eating, right? What do you associate with eating? What does he do? How does he do it? This way of thinking reveals the connect events. For example, we use a spoon. The other specific item is a napkin to wipe his mouth. But in between, he chooses to use the pendulum on the clock. If we make a list of these things, then we know what the final project will have to include. This mind map helps children visualize the problem. This example is clockwise, progressive thinking. We hope that children will learn to order things sequentially and logically. When the arrangement of devices is complete, we can design the devices and set them up correctly. If you want to know more about this, then watch this video. Now that we know more about the theme mind map, we are going to practice using one and implement thing that we planned to make a proper arrangement. Because of time, we won't be making a full arrangement today. Now before we start, let's check the regulations. In the WGM contest, there are many devices. Specifically, there must be at least 7 devices, including 2 that only use green energy. One must also complete a designated task. The precise details will vary according to the regulations each year. So, if you want to participate in the contest, remember to download the latest competition rules. You'll notice here that in every device, 2 scientific principles must be declared. These scientific principles cannot be repeated, so that means when you're making your plans, you must be planned properly and not duplicate any principles. For example, you can't use the lever here, then use the lever again in another device. That would only get 1 point. I will go into scoring in detail later. The scientific principle part contains several different aspects. There may even be different types of scientific principle used. For that reason, we have to give a short explanation of the scientific principle being used with the building blocks. If you go and buy some commercially available product, it may exhibit scientific principles, but it was not made by you, so something like that wouldn't count in the contest. After operating the devices, contestants must explain the scientific principles of each device to the judges. In the end, each action can only be awarded 1 scientific concept score. I give 3 examples here to show how standard devices are scored. Let's look at the first one. Let's say I make a track that has a small ball. The ball rolls down and hits a bell that makes a sound. This gets 1 point for acoustics. But today, if I roll down the ball to activate a buzzer, because the buzzer is a ready-made thing, it would not score a point for acoustics. On the other hand, the buzzer is activated because the ball hits it, which means it completes an electrical circuit. So, in that way, it can earn a point for use of electricity. If a ball rolls down and strikes a linkage, which opens the music box, and the music box is a purchased item, it will not get an acoustic score. But the ball hit something that opened it and caused the sound to start, so that will be able to score for the linkage, because the linkage was required for the music box to work. So you see, in different situations, we need to plan ahead and see what scientific principles we will be applying for. About the scientific concepts, how many devices are there in WGM? In total, we have 8, but the most important are the 7 that must use scientific principles. Because each device must have 2 scientific principles, 14 principles must be chosen. You can use more, but no extra points are awarded, and only the first 2 are scored. On the other hand, if there are less than 14, then points will be deducted. So we should encourage children to use all 14. For each device, children can only apply for 1 scientific principle in each device. So if you go aboard that, you will need to choose which to use. For example, I used inertia here. In the first device, I filled in the number 1 here, and any inertia used in other devices is not counted. Only 1 device can fulfill each scientific principle. Now, let's take a look at what scientific principles can be used. Here are the scientific principles of the basic structure. In other words, some physics principles, such as a lever, a pulley, or a wheel. Even the way something is built, like a truss structure, can count. These are basic and highly functional structures. Just make sure it is installed correctly on your project so that it is functional. In a contest, I sometimes hear children say something like, "I have gears on it, so why doesn't it count?" Teacher's thought, can you work out why?
Did they use the gear as decoration, not as a transmission?
Right, if we choose a specific principle, it must be functional.
So if I use a gear,
It was only for decoration, but didn't transmit power, I wouldn't score a point. So remember that if you choose a scientific principle, it must really work. Then it'll score a point. Now about project materials. We allow extension materials, things that are not building blocks. For example, with static electricity, friction is required to build a static charge. Balloons or aluminum foil can be used because electrons can be exchanged between the materials where they make contact, or with a visual persistence. We may need to draw some pictures so that it has the desired effects. Or acoustic that use a bell, or music box, anything like clicks or taps to make a sound. There's electricity too. They can be connected to buzzers and light bulbs. One thing to remember about scientific concepts is that sometimes it takes some time for the effect to show or build up. For example, if I make a car go down and incline a plane, but I want it to perform the task slowly, I can add a thing to the slope to increase the resistance. This could get a point for the principle of applied friction. Therefore, we score a point for friction. Here's another example. If I have a ball at the beginning and then turn on an air blower. Let's keep the ball in the air. Let's get score for the Bernoulli effect. Remember, you can only choose 2 scientific concepts for each device. At most, 2 concepts per device. So don't choose too many. Choose the ones you think are most suitable. Okay? When making devices, you should make sure that the mechanism itself is strong. It's common to see devices that come apart when used or during assembly. Or a device may work once or twice, but not a third time. So, during the build process, we need to keep checking, make sure everything is stable and smooth. The reason we give a score for smoothness is because excessive friction can cause issues. Children often ignore this factor and we want to remind them about this, and they have to check for friction and weight-bearing capacity. If you're not sure how to check these, you can review the first course, tips and tricks section. Finally, we have to check whether the device is stable or not. That is, when the device is operating, the success rate should be greater than 80%. This is a fair stability measure. When we are in the GreenMech contest, when it comes to connecting devices, there are several basic approaches like adding tracks. When device A and device B are too far away, I can add a track between them to reduce the difficulty in connecting them. Because they are too far apart, additional tracks like this can give it a displacement effect. What else? Dominoes. Dominoes can be made of building blocks, and it is a low difficulty solution. Rope can also be used to span and connect devices. When around a spool or hand something to touch another device, rolling items include marbles, batteries, or anything round. You can even use a car as a rolling item. When we don't know how to connect 2 devices, we can string them together using some ideas from this slide. These are some useful theoretical concepts. The most important thing for the GreenMech, however, is the actual operation. Now let's make a set of mini GreenMech devices. We'll follow the goals on this slide. For example, the first one is to use a voice control robot to activate the next device. Here we can take a robot model from the first course, make a few changes, and once it is set, move it by voice activation or remote control. Then it can activate the next device. How many devices do we need to have? We need 2 devices, so let's use the previous models. Take them out now. So, taking these 2 as the devices we want to link, we can connect them. using a track which seems to be most suitable method for now. The track might not be the best way. Another way would be using a catapult we made, or even a windmill. You could use those too. Now let's make our connection. Now let's check the designate task. The task is play music using a programmed device. So we want to play music. We only need to activate a sensor. After it is activated, we can get a buzzer sound or song. Now, follow the instructions on this slide. To make this GreenMech Mini, Teacher Slot will show you an example of a GreenMech Mini challenge. Now you can see the whole picture just for reference. The operational area here is about 1/3 of the size of the regular contest size. This is a 60 x 60 cm square. You can have 1 minute to experiment. But this time, you don't get too hurried or make accidental mistakes in the process. You'll be allowed to edit the video this time. Let's go! Here we have a complete example. The objective is to control the ball and get it to strike this point here. Here are our two scientific devices. One is a track card. The principle used here is a simple ratchet. With this chain gear, we made a ratchet. There's another scientific principle in use too, elasticity. Release the track card and let it hit here. The scientific principle in use here is the lever. Start the marble rolling down the track. And finally it hits the switch. The infrared sensor is triggered and activates the switch. And it plays a sound effect. This is just one way of achieving the goal. Next, Teacher Slot will control this programmable ball. See how easy it is. If you are making a video now, or you've already made a video, remember that first, we must control the ball to activate these devices. Do you remember how many scientific principles we need for each device? 2. That's right. Now this must make a sound at the end. We're looking forward to seeing your video. Right? I think you've all completed GM Mini Challenge now. For those that have finished, it posed a few problems, right? Of course, in the demo video, we always use the simplest way to achieve the goal. I hope that if you design the devices in the future, that you can use this as the basic for making gradual extensions. Next, look at a different WGM challenge. This next one is the Junior Programmer Set 1205. The Junior Programmer contest was added recently. The goal of Junior Programmer is to encourage younger children to join in the fun and get some valuable experience. During the warm-up contest, we'll be using the 1205 semi-robot space unit to perform some basic functions. I think many of you watching this will be familiar with semi as you have used it before. Before we take this challenge, we need to check the regulations again. That way, we'll be sure to complete the objective. Let's look at the contest rules. Here's a map and route for the device. It starts from the card with a green flag, which we'll call the start map card. And it goes through the orange block cards 1 to 5. But it has to go in the order 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5. Arriving at the fireworks event map card completes the challenge. In fact, this contest uses the official regulations with no changes. Under the official rules, as long as you make it to the fireworks card, you successfully complete the challenge. I invite you all to have a go now, but remember to follow the rules. For this challenge, the recording time is unlimited, and the speed of the video can also be adjusted. Finally, we hope you can make one small customization to your robot by putting your national flag on the top. This way, it will be easier to identify the different videos and projects we receive. Now, there's one more thing from the rules. To observe, the map card layout must be the same as in the regulations, and you are not allowed to change it. This is an official contest event, so when you put down the map cards, Please double check them and make sure they're the same as in the rules. Teacher's Love, it's your turn.
Okay, let's go.
We made a little demo video for this part and you can follow along. So the rule says that we must start here. Then go through 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 in order. No jumping to other numbers while Sammy is moving. Sammy must follow the route in order. Now we have written the code for the order we think that matches the map cards. Don't forget your flag on top of Sammy. Let's start the recording process here. It arrives at 1. Two, 3, 4, 5. Now Sammy moves towards the fireworks map card. Challenge passed.